Okay, guys. Sorry, we're just a minute late. I'm waiting for Lloyd. It's my fault. Everything happens at last minute. So welcome, everybody. Hit the like button. You cannot comment unless you subscribe. Did I have it on slow mode? Hold on. I don't have it on slow mode yet. 1 second, peoples. People are people, so why should it be? 1 second. Let me set it up. All right. Edit. 1 second, people. Your love, O Lord, reaches to the heavens. Your faithfulness reaches to the sky. All right. All right, Lloyd, I'll bring you up, but just give me a second, Lloyd. Let me set up on my. I need to do this as well, guys. Give me a second. He's in backstage. I'll bring him up, but I gotta also get it to work on Facebook. Last minute, everything happens. You see, the Holy Spirit in his grace and mercy and love is going to bless Lloyd and bless us through Lloyd, because things happen. Sometimes the spiritual attacks get very bad when there's going to be a great blessing. So from a couple of days ago, the attack started. And right now you see I'm running late. So glory to the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. 1 second, Lloyd. Let me just get this ready. Lloyd, I love you, man. He's a good man. He's got a set of skills, but because he's gracious, he only uses it in self-defense and doesn't use it against brethren. 1 second. Let me do this. Come on. All right. We're ready, man. We're ready for Lloyd, man. Ready. Are you here, man? What's up, brother? Poor Lloyd.
Hello, Sam. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here.
Now,
all the things.
There's a 16-second delay. And brethren, praise God for this man. God has blessed him with knowledge, intelligence, devotion for the Lord, and physical skills. And the brother is gracious. He's turning the other cheek, because let me let you know. He didn't say it, I did. You guys know that I probably have ADD, meaning that when I'm doing a session, I read comments, and then people go off topic or talk about something that's important but not related. I get discombobulated. So this poor brother, I ended up removing him and blocking him from my comment section. And he was gracious enough to control himself, say, listen, Sam, I won't comment on your comment section anymore. And he left it at that. But I know if I was close to him, he laid hands on me and bless you. So thank you for being gracious, brother, because you have a set of skills.
People, Sam. But yeah, let's see. Sam, what did you take away from our last session on atheism? What have you learned from it? How have you used it? How's it been effective for you? And how's it changed your insights?
Well, you've actually, as I said last time, and hopefully you're going to dive into it, you've shown me that, to me, I'll be honest, atheism is much more dangerous, much more vile, much more evil than even Islam. That's what I walked away with. I'll be honest with you. That's my impression. Now, sadly, in the comment section, you have atheists who don't know the roots of atheism, who are pretty much trying to demonize the talk, because being unaware of the history of modern atheism. I mean, we know atheists have always existed. Psalm 14 verse 1 talks about people who are fools who would say there is no God. But the thing is, modern atheism is clearly satanic in its origin, and it's anti-Christian. A lot of atheists don't know that. I had to block someone from my live stream because he had listened only to the last 20 minutes of your conversation. And he goes, look, I'm an agnostic. I know atheists. I know they don't believe any of that stuff. I go, because you're ignorant. You guys are atheists, not knowing the roots of modern atheism. So this is why this series is vitally important, and the Holy Spirit anoint you and fill you for the glory of Jesus Christ. We need to know the facts that led to the rise of modern atheism. And I'm emphasizing modern atheism. Although there's been atheists from the beginning, modern atheism is anchored in an anti-Christian, anti-biblical, anti-God worldview that's pretty much satanic. Now, by the way, even before you begin, you blew me away with a quote. Maybe you want to share it. I know it's not the topic, but God willing, my channel is your channel. And as long as God gives me health and holiness, you'll have a platform here. You blew me away when you quoted from Martin Luther's Table Talks, where Martin Luther said Jesus is an adulterer. Could you share that? Real quick,
yes.
atheism. and I'll share screen share.
Here it is.
And by the way, as he shares this, the link to his YouTube channel is in the description box, and I'm going to pin it. Brother, can you tell us this quote, which I also shared as a community post, because you had put it as a community post?
Yeah.
Can you give us the context and who said this?
So this was said by Martin Luther. It is written in his Table Talks, and it's called Christ the Adulterer. Now, the Table Talks are discussions that Martin Luther had and were recorded by his friends, his followers, his fellow students. And I'll quote this one. It's called Christ the Adulterer. Christ was the first to commit adultery, as in John 4 at the well with the woman, because they said, "No one knows what he is doing with her." Also with Mary Magdalene and with the adulteress in John 8, whom he let off so lightly. Therefore, the righteous Christ also had to become a fornicator first before he died. In fact, I believe in the German, he uses the term fornicator.
Wow. And this is not misquoted, because I know people were saying, no.
No, in the German, it's Christus Adulter. Christus ist am ersten erbrechen worden. And he says, bei dem Brunnen, cumuliere. So there's a bunch of Latin there. Sorry, no, there's a bunch of Latin. So yeah, it's not all in German. Also muss der von Christus auch am ersten ein Erbrecher werden. Starb. So he had to be, so the thing is, he's calling Christ an adulterer. Now, Christ did not marry, so Christ could not be an adulterer. So therefore, Christ was a fornicator. Do you understand? There's a distinction there. And then also, now people claim, Lloyd, you're taking this out of context. First of all, there is no context. There is just this quote that was said very bluntly. Now, people say, well, they try to excuse it by saying that Martin Luther was talking about how Jesus took on all the sins of the world. Well, Luther specifically speaks of that in various writings, and he speaks of it in that context. Here, he is making 3 explicit condemnations. He's accusing Jesus of sleeping with 3 separate women, of fornicating with 3 separate women.
Damn.
And then additionally, I think I should add that, for instance, in context, where does he say, well, Jesus had to murder somebody to take on the sin of murder? Jesus had to diddle a baby to take on the sin of pedophilia. Jesus had to rob somebody to take on the sin of theft. Understand? So there's been attempts to excuse, well, he was drunk when he said this. Now, there is a reasonable chance, a fairly good chance, that he was drunk. That is also true on many an occasion. But it's also possible so there is no defending this, because now any comment that people try to give context to this is utter speculation. It is speculative defense at best, and dishonesty at worst, to try to pretend. This is like with Muhammad. It's exactly like Muhammad. Well, what Muhammad meant was, it's the miracle of reinterpretation, but for Protestants.
Yeah. There you go. This is the fruit. This is the fruit of Protestantism. May God awaken Protestants to the fullness of the truth, and to see their roots is nasty, because it's anchored in this demon, this demonized, mentally ill individual. And I've heard there are reports that he was mentally ill, but we'll bring you on to discuss that, because you're here to destroy atheism. So, brother, the Lord Jesus anoint you. The floor is yours. I'm here to facilitate.
So, yeah, someone mentioned the Gnostic aspects of Luther, and I will talk about that in the future. Here's an issue, though. The story of Martin Luther it's a very difficult, it's a minefield. There is so much positive propaganda in defense of him. There is also, I think, lots of negative propaganda which could have been put out in defense of him, because once you quote something falsely, then you can be embarrassed by someone saying, hey, you quoted a false piece of information. So there are so many false sayings which need to be examined for their truth. So at the moment, and also it's very hard to find all of Luther's works in the original German, and many are edited, many have had passages removed. So at the moment, I am going through Luther's works in the original German. And that's a very slow process, because, I mean, I speak German. When I was younger, I spoke it much better. I spoke it much more often. I'm okay with it conversationally. If you drop me in Germany, I can survive just fine. But to have to go through this in detail is a lot slower now, because I have to do it in German, because I want to know what the original phrasing was. Because I don't always trust the English texts either.
That shows you his research is painstaking, and he wants to be meticulous, and he wants to be spot on. because he doesn't want to be mistaken. And God bless your efforts. And guys, you have his link to the YouTube channel. I pinned it. Support him prayerfully and financially. Now, brother, I'm here to facilitate. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks. Well, while I'm here, let me show you something else. This is called Muslims and Citizens, Islam, Politics, and the French Revolution. Now, we've just spoken about the French Revolution in the previous episode, right? And it says, a groundbreaking study of the role of Muslims in 18th century France. From the beginning, French revolutionaries imagined their transformation as a universal one that must include Muslims. Muslims too saw an opportunity, particularly as European powers turned against the new French Republic, leaving the Muslim polities of the Middle East and North Africa as France's only friends. Which is, oh wow, that's interesting. The atheists and the Muslims, tight buddies. Muslims came to participate in the political struggles of the revolution. And in the book, we've got interesting titles such as this: Paris turned Turk or Ottoman, wow. The Turban and the Axe, The Turbans of Liberty, Islam in the Temple of Reason. And don't forget, the atheists established their Temple of Reason, their cult of reason.